And it's preparing to live stream momentarily. I'm so glad y'all are here. Every single person here. This is awesome. Yep. I'm really glad for this turnout. And hey, oh gosh, it caught some of my awkward things that I thought weren't going to be live. Okay, here we go. So welcome to the first Node.js Internationalization Working Group meeting of the year. Super excited to have everybody here and excited to talk through some really relevant issues and pick up steam. Everybody who's here has done so much in the last couple years since we even started talking about this, and I think it's a really amazing opportunity to get the ball rolling and see how we can support both internationalization as far as all of the Node.js textual assets in the ecosystem, as well as the INTL object and how we can serve that initiative better. In fact, most of that has been on the shoulders of Stephen here for a long time. So I'm really thankful for his work in that and excited to see how we can collaborate. Let me grab our agenda. So I'm going to go over to the agenda. If there's anybody here who wouldn't mind taking notes, that would be awesome. Since there's only 4 of us, I know taking notes is hard and participating at the same time to do both. So no pressure to take extremely thorough notes if you want to participate. But can anybody take notes while we go through this?
I can. I need to know where to take them. I guess I can just do it on a HackMD. Is that okay with everyone?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Below down there, there's a minutes section.
Yeah, I can put it in this chat here.
Perfect.
There we go.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
So and I'll try to fill in some notes at the same time too. I'm also trying to gather the issues up.
Cool.
So
awesome. If as we're going through this, it would be extremely helpful. I put an action items section above the minutes. If we could bubble up action items, just ad hoc, that would be super awesome, if possible. No pressure, but if we don't, then I'll probably traverse through the minutes and bubble them up myself in post. So okay, let's get started.
Sure. And we did lose Yuki, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Just
okay.
from a.
No problem. So let's start out with the first topic there, which is revive the project and unblock the translation process.
All right.
So I think I'd just in a brief update on that. It'd be good to do a current status of where things are at with ComCom and the internationalization repository and crowded. So I'm going to do just a basic high level overview of that, and then maybe we can talk about any other issues for that we should get into action items on. So yeah, essentially this is still an initiative of ComCom. Internationalization is one of like 10. As far as like governance is concerned. So we're still under that purview within Node.js. Now, what's interesting, about this is right now we're talking both about, more community outreach oriented stuff and translating text, for people to read, as well as what's going on in the actual in Node core with INTL. And so that's really interesting. Let's get into that in the issue. Down below that, so that'll be an interesting conversation. But right now, we're essentially just kind of where we left off last time, and full support from ComCom to push forward. So let's see, internationalization repository. It's still, not much has happened as far as code is concerned in the last like a year or so. And so I think it's basically at that, after that initial, opening the floodgates moment with not a lot of maintenance afterward. So, like we kind of opened the floodgates, we set up all the configuration between Crowdin and the repository. So in fact, translations can come in. We just don't have active maintenance of people who are fielding all of the, there are my God, there's so many requests for joining and translation help in Crowdin. And, part of this, a lot, I take the blame for a lot of, not continually refreshing the support pool for this, but there's no time like the present to push on and do that. So anyways, there is a lot of interest in the crowd and repository, people, translators reaching out to get involved. And so I think, one aspect of this is to set clear maintenance, or clear contribution guidelines, and I'll get, we have that on the agenda as well. But there's a lot that can be done there. So internationalization repository is essentially like where, it's ready to get the targets fleshed out as far as how we want to set that up and enhance that. And we started to do some of that, but we need maintainers. And then, yeah, Crowdin, I mean, as far as Crowdin is concerned as an isolated thing, it looks great. I mean, Spanish is at like a really high percentage of translation. Let me look. It's like Spanish was something like it's like 90 percentile or something. Oh no, not 90, 76. So like 70%, 76 after like not having really any maintainers, like having 70% translation is like kind of cool for like API docs and stuff. We need to pick up with our outreach to get more people involved and kind of streamline that. Yeah, so that's kind of the current status on where we're at with these things. Does anybody have any comments or thoughts on this?
In the notes, I wrote, Ben silly, selfishly, and wrongly takes the blame.
Yes.
Just want to point out that you are not the only person, so don't do that to yourself. It's all of our fault.
I know.
We're having a meeting. We'll get something done.
Okay.
Well, one thing that might be good is to get the metrics. I mean, maybe I wonder if even if there's a badge or something. I mean, I'm not trying to add. I could easily add more work rather than less work, but if there was like a badge or something, we could put, from the i18n/i18n page. Okay, I guess you can just go to Crowdin project Node.js and you can see the dashboard, right? Yeah, there you go. That's the thing. Okay, so I'll put that in the links here.
Awesome. Yeah, because they do have the percentage there for like each language. Is that what you're talking about? Like how much?
Yeah.
And
so this is theoretically going into Markdown, right? So we can be kind of MD-ish. Okay.
Exactly. And I think the other thing that would be helpful with a badge is to have a correlation between percentage of what. So like if it's the API docs or if it's like a website or whatever.
Yeah.
That'd be super cool.
One of the things that might be cool, which I've seen on other websites, like Open Collective has this, is to have a list of percentages somewhere on the website itself, so that you can actually see, like on Node.js.com, what the percentage is of translations. That's actually a really good way to getting people on board, because they can see that actually, oh, Spanish is at 76%. I can help with that.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
I saw that recently. I can't remember what page it was, but it was like it was super enlightening. It was like the simplest but coolest thing I've ever seen as far as like, oh, okay, now I know how much is available, because you're actually like posting that on my site. You're not just saying we have, something translated,
Yeah, if you go to the bottom of Open Collective here, just the footer. Yeah, it's super awesome. Like you can see right there, Portuguese and French are at 100%. And I thought that might be something that would be really cool, because having a dashboard is great for us as the maintainers, but as a way of like rallying support, maybe good to have really clear badges saying, yo, we need help here. Yep.
Yeah, totally. It's almost like, it's like implicitly asking for help, right? Because it's like, hey, we're only, so far we only have so much done, and that might like entice somebody who actually cares about it to jump in.
Yeah, and the other thing is on the language, and I haven't. So at the time of the Great Fork, there were a ton of individual languages.
I love that you're saying this while you're like sitting in front of the earth. You're just like, at the time of the Great Fork.
Exactly. So, but there are the language specific subgroups, and are those?
Yes.
I think they're still around. So that would be something where you could go to, you know, Node.js dash, okay, ES is great, but, you know, kind of recruit from there.
Absolutely. I think it's a good resource to go back and see what interest people have in jumping into this. When we did kick this off, I ran through all those steps of contacting each localization working group and saying this is the way things are shifting, and or as far as like, you know, this proposal and that kind of stuff. So people are aware, or have been aware for some time, that it's shifted into you know, a different pattern for internationalization. But we need to, yeah, it would be good to, like, I mean, you know, there was already previous interest, so we should reach out to them for sure. I'm going to add that.
Sorry, I had to step away from my desk for a sec. Did you cover off setting up the Crowdinhook for the Node.js.org repo?
We didn't cover. We're essentially been doing a high level, like what we need, and triaging a little bit and that sort of thing, rather than getting into the specifics.
Okay, that was just the second part of the first item.
Yeah, no, and I think the thing to take from that right now, as we're rolling through this this broad agenda here, is that we need input, and we need maintainers to help with that. It's been stagnant for a while, and it's basically like, who can help set that up as we identify targets. And I think that's kind of where we're at. So I know Zeke has put in a lot of work in the past on that, and a few other people, and Nick. Let's definitely. I think you know, we should just make a current issue about what needs to be done, and move from there.
All right. So it's set up on the org side, just in terms of the code owners. So if PRs start to flow in from Crowdin, it'll still tag all the correct language groups depending on what files are being touched.
Yes.
We're just waiting for the bot to be set up.
Awesome. Yeah.
I think that's just what's been blocked for a few months.
Okay. Yeah, and can you remind me of what the blocker on the bot is?
I think someone just needs to either provide or set up the credentials.
Oh, okay.
So I think there's just a part missing in that. I think it's probably that 2906 issue.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. The first one.
Yeah, I saw that. I was planning on doing that sometime today or this weekend to give the credentials for that. So I'll try to hit that up as soon as possible and unblock that process.
And does anyone have experience with the onboarding to the Crowdin part? Because we might need to ingest the content into the platform, besides just having the bot set up.
Yeah, I think Zeke handled a bit of that before.
Okay.
In the past, so he would be a good person to reach out to about that at the moment.
Right.
But I'm also interested in that. I just haven't looked into it. So let's keep in touch, and I'd like to help out too. Let's see. Reach out to localization. I'm just adding action items here. Localization folks. Okay. The next thing on the agenda is. Oh, sorry. Well, are we all done discussing, you know, aspects of reviving this project? Is there anything else that anybody would like to talk about for that? Cool. Okay. The next thing is updating our guides. I just put in this issue right before the meeting. I think part of the reason why we don't have much involvement is because we essentially have, like, you know, like a small MVP getting started guide and like no contributing guide. So we just have like I don't know, we have nothing actually describing how to get involved in the project in the contributing guide. So that needs to change. And if we add, let me look at that issue really quick. If we add a few things, I think we can start to see, if we add a few things and get this out on people's radar, like, you know, via Twitter and that kind of stuff, and ask for help, I think we might see some significant increase in involvement. So, you know, the 4 points essentially are that we need to help people understand or how to get involved in this initiative, you know, like what we do, and then how to work on the internationalization repo to localize content, like Nick was talking about. how to join Crowdin and localize resources as a translator, and point people to Crowdin who want to just translate, and then how to get involved in contributing to INTL and Node.js, and how to gather volunteers to help out with this. So like we need to have some kind of like, how are we going to stay, how is this their reciprocity in our project? That's essentially it. So we need a guide for that kind of stuff. Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
I think I covered all 5 of your 4 points.
Sweet.
Thank you. It might be good for one of us to just write it up and then to actually send it out to the committee, and then we just collaboratively work on it. Where should this guide live?
In the, like for now, I think the pragmatic thing to do is in the repository, like an actual contributing guide, and then we can use
So actually there is a contributing. Okay, that's CCO and DCO, but so maybe we want to use a different term, because contributing has kind of, there's a getting started. Okay.
Yeah.
There's actually a getting started. Let me put a link to it here.
It has some like essentials in it. I think we just need to update it as far as the getting started is concerned, and then from there, we can.
Right. But I think we should probably start with what's there.
Yeah. Right.
And we should start with what's there, and then edit it as need be.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so getting started. I kind of think this probably should move to either a subsection or a subpage, because this looks like it's just it looks like it's just section basically 3.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of just bullet point 3.
Yeah. Yeah. So we need to update it to cover all of the sections.
Okay.
That sounds good. Yeah. Starting from there, and then I think like a very powerful thing that we could do.
Yeah.
To update these documents and then tweet about them and get them out in the open, and kind of have a push for that, so that people have a funnel to know where they can get involved. Because it's not like, there's a lot of people who are excited about internationalization as a thing.
Right.
But just having that funnel will be essential.
Well, one that might be good even to get, we could even get an initial PR, even if it's a more modest change, just kind of getting these points out on the table, and send the PR around and say, hey, we're trying to help people on board to this, and especially send it to ComCom, send it to some of the language groups.
Definitely.
That's what
I like this.
Well. Also, just between us, I mean, we could just put the headers up, and then if we don't know something, hopefully someone else does, and if not, we'll have to figure it out. So that'd be
right.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
Right.
Cool.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Awesome.
So
cool. Oh.
So do we need an issue? So I could file an issue for this.
Perfect.
Basically updating. Oh, actually, there is one open 25 minutes ago by you. Okay. Wow. Okay. Great.
Sorry. That's what I thought we were talking about.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then opened already. Okay.
Awesome.
I think what might be good is at the end of this call to go through all the action items and assign people. And then, Perfect. That way we can have directly responsible individuals for current efforts.
DRIs. Perfect.
Yep. Okay. So I created a section of action items at the very bottom here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Great.
Awesome. Thank you. Cool.
We already have a set of action items in the middle.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Am I in the wrong spot? I'm in the wrong spot. Action item, read the agenda. Okay.
Cool. If any other thoughts on that, so we can move along with the agenda.
Nope. Sounds good. Next.
Sounds good. Let's move on.
All right. So this is a big one. I think we need to think through, and we're going to need a lot of your guidance and help here, Stephen. There's going to be. Let me like back up and say, from what I've noticed, like internationalization is sort of like a niche thing inside the ecosystem of Node.js. Now, that because you're like one of the only people who works on INTL, and there are people who care about internationalization of documentation. There are people who care about internationalization of runtime,
Right.
And like, those are both extremely valuable things in the ecosystem, and are two different, can be two different disciplines as far as like what you are doing and get involved in. And I want to figure out like what the best role is, what the best way is to, or I guess what the best foot forward is. How do you feel about INTL and being a part of like one internationalization thing that has like, kind of two directives in it? Or, like how should we move forward with this? Like what I'm excited, I mean, I just love hanging out and talking about these things and getting involved. And
Right.
I want to help out with INTL more because I love it. It's really curious to me, and I haven't had a chance to do more of that, but I want to work with you on those sort of things if I can over time. But, like, what is the best foot forward for INTL? And, is this, should it be here within an i18n repository that does multiple things? Or, like, what do you think about that?
I mean, I think there are two things, and in fact, I've spent a lot of time only doing globalization and not translation. And interestingly enough, kind of my main day job work is actually more translation and a smaller part of the globalization. But so I kind of see both pieces to it. I think one of the things that's part of it is, as you said, it can be hard to get people engaged and get to find the right people that can answer the questions and all that. So I think having kind of more collectiveness, back like a better word rather than less, is probably a good thing. I also think one of the things that's great about Node, I've done, like, the IC project has been open source since 1999 or something like that. But one of the things I think is great about Node.js is that as a community, there's all kinds of different people working on stuff. So it's not just someone sitting in a corner, hacking out optimized some optimized parser for something. It's people doing all kinds of stuff, including communications and translation, stuff like that. So anyway, all that, long story short, is I think that as a group, I think i18n group should really cover both, because a lot of things are really related. And one of the things I see in translation is that a lot of times difficulties with translation can go back to architectural decisions. Just a kind of a basic one I look at is, every website that has every website that wants to have multiple languages has a list of languages, and it's often translated. So, one of the things that gets translated a lot is, okay, translate English into English, translate French into French, all this translation stuff. Well, the thing is, there's already a project, CLDR, that does that and has all those translations. So if you leverage the right architecture, you can improve your translatability a lot. So anyway, so I think that's kind of why those are related. The other thing is that when you find people that are interested in some language, let's say Spanish, they also will have the knowledge needed to deal with the globalization question. So you get in contact with the right people that know about that. If you have those completely separate, if some people doing translating over here as if that's kind of I don't know, non-programming, it's non-development, that's just text, right? That's writing stuff, and then you have people over here that are doing code. If you keep those separate, then you don't get the pain points that come back from the language community, where someone says, well, I'm writing this code, I'm a coder, and I use this language, and my language has never really been well supported, and I just kind of live with that because it's been that way my whole life. People will get used to lack of support. Or I'm used to not finding my language written on the system because it's I don't know, it's Asturian or something, and I just don't see it as one of the major languages. So people don't push for stuff. But if we can keep those communities together, then if we can keep the globalization side, like the i18n code, the INTL coding stuff, with people doing translation, that we can bring out some of those, I can call it pain points, you can call it opportunity, however you want to call it, and you can really move things forward. A case in point is ECMA 4.2, and I want to get to ECMA 4.2, not take this whole time.
I was going to say that reminds me of the delegate meetings,
delegate stuff,
where you've got like representatives from Google and from wherever that have like people who are using using this in application, and then the people developing the language or the code.
Exactly, but there was a feature in CLDR and ICU for several years, list format, and it finally is being proposed to go into ECMAScript. And V8 came with an early proposal. Somebody tweeted in Spanish, "Hey, this doesn't work in Spanish." And a bunch of people kind of collectively scratched their heads over the past several months and said, "You're right, it doesn't work in Spanish." But that wasn't noted until somebody, on Twitter saw that V8 had this new feature, tried it out in their language, Spanish, not a super obscure language. I do a lot with Spanish myself, so and they said this doesn't work. So that's completely brought a new requirement from a technical side from the user community via V8. So anyway, that's the kind of interaction that would be great to get. What are the things you run into? What are the things where you see your language as where your language can seem like a second-class citizen, and how can we fix that? Because that's kind of the goal of this, right?
That's awesome. You know what that makes me think of is kind of operationally, or being pragmatic moving forward. If we do, as we do internationalization working group meetings here, it might be good to section or to partition like two parts of the time to talk more about like the translation process, and then the globalization process. And so it might be interesting to like to kind of feel that out over time, and how much time, because how much time we can spend like getting the translation process supporting the globalization, and the globalization supporting the translation, all that kind of stuff. So,
yep.
Sounds good. That was great.
Okay.
Thank you for that summary, and it really helps. I don't know if like in that issue that I shared, someone chimed in. They're like, "Wait, what? Why is there there's this old repository and there's this new repository, and then like what do I do? And what's going on with INTL?" And,
I saw that.
Yeah.
And I think the old repository is actually the old repository is actually archived.
Yeah,
do they want it to be deleted? This is I know, Sam.
Okay, yeah.
But
a solution to that is probably to just unarchive it briefly, write a big "this is archived" on the top, go to the new repo, and then archive it again.
Didn't you do that, Stephen?
Yeah, I did, but I can delete it.
Yeah.
No, don't delete it.
It says decharted. It says this has been decharted. Go to Node.js/i18n.
So it's fine. It's fine.
Okay. I mean,
I can track Sam down and.
Okay. I just get worried about that kind of thing where I'm like, okay, well, if people are confused out, like in the open, then we need to like have more clear. I guess a more clear guideline.
Yeah, but
roles.
Another way to see it is like people who are driving and using Google Maps for directions often turn into the wrong street. It's not that we need better street signs. It's just sometimes people turn in the wrong street, right? Like there are things which you can't really fix all the time. We could delete it.
That's true.
But I wouldn't worry about it. It's not going to be a huge barrier.
Well, one thing is, I think, and Sam's been part of some of this for a while, but I'm rereading this now today. This kind of looks like there may be a point here. Maybe we just need to be consistent with our naming. You pick one, and sort it out. I mean, our i18n is our repository going forward.
Yeah.
And maybe what we need to do is clean up the labels and get rid of the Intel label. Let's say.
Yeah.
I
think having one umbrella will be far less confusing. For people. Yeah. I think the only difference there is that, or the only thing that you have to wrestle with there is that INTL is the representation of the object in JavaScript.
Right. Yeah.
So like.
And that's why I named it that originally in the old working group.
But I mean, I guess it's probably not a big a deal. I think we just need one naming convention.
So let's sort out the labels. Let's sort out the teams, because I think one thing that was confusing that did this is that Intel remained a team, even though, and the team wasn't dechartered, even though i18n. So maybe what we can do is, really get INTL out of there. Maybe there should be an i18n dash. I don't know. Maybe there should be something. Maybe we want like an i18n dash translation, i18n dash API. I don't know, something like that. Some kind of team label. I think you have sub teams even, to just sort things out. Because actually, I think I'm rereading this. I don't think that it's necessarily. I don't think Sam is mixed up about the. I don't think he's mixed up about kind of the overall picture, but I think he's just pointing out that there's some consistency. There's more cleanup from whenever we did this, that needs to be sorted out.
Get the action item down here.
I'm looking at TSC issue 353, 2017. Okay, so I can take this. Well, I don't know if I can take this TSC one because but.
Cool. You said you want to take point on that? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I can't take point on the TSC one because I'm
that's right.
Not currently TSC, but I can. I think there's a point here. So let's think about what to do. I'll comment on this issue and we can come back to this.
Perfect. And I'll keep my eye on it too, and help from the ComCom side.
Great.
So hopefully we can raise the issue to the level that we can get communicating with the TSC, and then from there. Whatever.
Right. What I can do is clean up the labels.
Awesome.
And and maybe we can just rename the label to i18n.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, that sounds great. I think a good place, like you said, good place to start is on the issue.
Okay. Then, great.
We just go from there. Thank you, Stephen. That's super.
Let's move on from that.
Yep. Okay. Awesome. Perfect. Did you have any thoughts on that, Richard or Nick? Or should we move on? Okay. Well, let's see. Website content to be translated is the next issue. I think, let's see, Dhruv opened this up a long time ago. And
I think this is the same as the 2906 kind of on the Node.js org repo. Right.
Yeah, I think essentially, like you said, 2906. And it's essentially just waiting for progress and unblocking people with like the crowd-in bot and credentials and stuff. So, is there anything really besides that we need to talk about in this, or that you'd like to discuss?
The only one I'm kind of unclear with is there's also that Node.js.dev website. I'm not really involved in that redesign thing.
Yep.
But they're doing a whole other Gatsby thing, so there might be yet another project that might need a setup as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think what we're getting into, I don't have the issue handy. I think it was linked somewhere through this, like Miles chimed in talking about CMS and stuff, and people wanting to have access to be able to update websites and whatnot, even if they're, if they can't write code or whatever for it. So it's going to be an interesting problem that we're going to have to tackle as far as how to configure configure that pipeline and like kind of advocate for making it work for internet, I guess, best practices. Zeke has a lot of experience with doing this for Electron and for GitHub, and I would love to get a conversation with another conversation soon with the website redesign team who's responsible for Node.js, Node.dev or whatever, and us, and you, Nick, and figure out how to, like what the primary goal is and how to, like what do we need to do since it is Gatsby driven and that sort of thing. How can we make parity, like how can we make that work? So I think that's kind of next steps, is to have a more in-depth working group conversation, cross working group conversation with the website redesign team. Because it does get really hairy when you have, like CMS stuff and, like frameworks and whatnot. You can't just like, I don't know, especially with CMS, it's hard. Like the original thing we were, doing was creating this Node npm module, that you can import and sort of lazy load your JSON, JSONified markdown from translations or whatnot, and then import them into the right place, like per page or whatnot. And we just have to see like how far down the road we can go with that, as in how it's going to work, like with Gatsby and with other configurations. But yeah, let's definitely. I think the action item here is to set up a working group meeting as soon as possible with the website redesign team. So, any more thoughts on that before we move along? No. Okay. Well, the next agenda item is number 4, working group meeting time and frequency, some housekeeping. I am planning on, like probably for the next three months, I'll probably have to reassess. So like, currently I'm unemployed, so I'm looking for a job right now. So my time is relatively open for the next, usually it takes about 3 months to land your next thing. So within that time period, I'm planning on being here at this time every week. So if that works for y'all, that's great. As far as having like, a core team, doing this for a while, and we can reassess as we need to. I'd like to meet weekly for now, so that we can, just like make good progress. Doesn't have to be an hour. Could if it's weekly, or we could do a bi-monthly at, an hour or whatever. But what do y'all think about timing and frequency and what works?
I host the Sustain podcast right before this, so I can probably jump on most weeks. So
sweet.
Yeah, I often have some. Actually, I have a conflict now, but probably an hour before or after this is usually better for me.
Okay.
Than right at this time, but
sure. Richard has a podcast, like you said, an hour before this, right? So then maybe the hour after this would be better for all of you.
That should work. I'm also looking for work, which means actually I don't have a lot of time, because it's actually a lot lot of effort.
Yeah, no, it is.
Just doing that.
It is. Yeah, it definitely is. I don't know. We should hang out and talk about all that soon.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's definitely like a balance, It's like being out, like in the public, doing awesome stuff, and then also, actually putting in applications. Anyways, yeah, okay, cool. Well, I think for now, maybe the thing to do is to move this to an hour post, moving forward, and then that way, if you're available, Richard, and you're available, Stephen and Nick, that'd be great.
Yep.
Cool. Okay, so we'll do that for now, and then I'm sure people will chime in for preferences.
Great.
Okay, so next one is publish a module to npm. I feel like we don't really need to go in depth about that right now, because it would be better to have people who've worked on it before here with us. So I'm going to punt that until we can get Zeke and other folks input. Will be highly valuable to that discussion. And then unless anybody had something burning questions about it. Nope. Okay. Audit of our localization groups, number 19 was the next one after that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of what I alluded to. I think there was an audit of how many of them are active. And I couldn't quite find the master. I thought there was a master list in some markdown document, but
if I remember correctly,
Richard, did I audit them?
Richard audited them.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he like in this issue.
Oh yeah, there's an audit in the issue.
Yeah, he posted. He posted like his findings from from those groups. So I think that was the most exhaustive list of source of truth that we had for that. And then I also, in tandem, posted an issue on each in every localization group, just saying, like, this is what we've been doing. What's your interest in it, all that kind of stuff. So and there was, some people responded, or some groups responded, some didn't. There was no negative responses. It was it all went forward without a hitch, as people say. So I think as far as the audit is concerned, we can probably close this issue. If y'all agree, I would suppose. Okay. Should we close the issue?
Yeah, I think we could close it. We probably want to make sure we have a and maybe this is separate, but we should make sure that we have a if there's any, I know they're all somewhat independent in some sense. But it would be good to have some kind of general coordination. I talked at the Collaborator Summit years back about trying to do some kind of worldwide call with everyone, but that was too difficult logistically. But it would be good to have some way. I know, thanks for doing the legwork on sending something out to each group, and I found a lot of those. Yeah, there's a link there, but it would be good to figure out some way to have some sort of central way to at least contact everyone or something.
Yeah, and I think
but I think we can close this, but that might be a follow-up thing.
Like a new issue would be to take stock of these localization groups and create like a contact, like a virtual Rolodex or something. You know, like just like have a like a I guess like a markdown document or something, like in this repository that has each individual contributor from the.
It has the list as well, just like
a table
of all of them, because we don't want that to be just locked in a closed issue. We want to have the list of all the repos somewhere.
So right, exactly.
Make a markdown of that.
I'll file a new issue for that.
Awesome, sweet, perfect. I will close this, and then if you can file an issue for that, that'd be awesome. And then however we can help with that, to reach out to people, just let us know.
Yeah, and maybe there's some way to do at least a I mean, maybe a meeting is not practical, but maybe there's a way to do a I don't know, like a poll or an open document or something to kind of take the pulse of everyone and have that be a regular thing. So anyway, I have some old issues from the old group that started trying to do that.
Awesome.
So anyway, I'll file it. I'll file probably 2 issues.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay. We'll get on that. I'm just closing this.
Great. Yeah, close it.
Now closing. There we go.
Yep.
Okay. Great. So let's move on to the next one. We have action items from that. Perfect. Automatic approve and merge of translations. Yes,
great.
This is another thing that is just another recapitulation of what's sort of holding us up here. As far as getting, I think this is really a maintainer problem. We just like need to have clear roles, like within the internationalization working group here. So like, somebody maintaining like watching the PRs or whatever until we, because ideally we talked about this before, where and I think Zeke said that they do this in Electron, but where they sort of have an open pipeline where they review and post after it's already gone live, essentially, like because like the mitigation is a lot. There's not a lot to mitigate typically as far as translations, but yeah.
Well,
I had a question around that one.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we set up the code owners file in the .org repo, but to actually take advantage of that on GitHub, you have to be a contributor to the repo. Do you see any downsides to making the various different localization teams contributors to the website repos?
No.
Like their kind of ownership is masked to like the files, like the i18n files that they own. So it's not like, well, technically they can push anywhere, but everything has to go through a PR, and there are code reviewers required depending on what you touch.
Yeah.
Well, being a contributor, I mean, there's a defined process for being a contributor, right? And so maybe that would be a good kind of point of contact for the groups, is to say, hey, this is a call for contributors, or maybe I mean, probably there are some members of the groups that are already contributors, and say, okay, we need some people to be you know, on point to start to review and merge these. And actually, a bot could label a PR, you know, could certainly label a PR and mention a team. You know, there could be a team like,
So
you know, reviewer.
that's actually handled by
something.
that code owners file.
Okay.
As long as we add them as a contributor to the particular repo.
Yeah.
Right now, because they're just part of the organization, we can mention them, but it doesn't have that magic of the GitHub automatically assigning them to the PRs unless we give them contributor access to the particular repos.
Okay.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think
so botless.
No, in action. Yeah, I mean, and I think like, yeah, that's like with the policies, right? Like Stephen was mentioning, you know, I think it's going to take a minute to sort out what that might look like, and how that might be feasible for making, you know, for adding contributors. I don't know if there's like specific policies around at the moment around making contributors for like specific repos in that way. Yeah, it would just, I don't know. We would just have to.
Yeah, and this is mostly the Node.js. This is all the Node.js.org repo, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, this would probably be a question for
like
the website committee or website team, right?
Yeah, I think we can add that as a agenda item for the next meeting for sure.
Yeah, because I think there was a question about having a meeting with the website group.
Yeah, I threw that action item.
Yeah, there's an action item for that.
At least.
So maybe include that. Maybe include that in the conversation.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that sounds great. We'll take it up with them. Okay, so we got 6 minutes, and we have one point left. Create crowd-in glossary. Great. It needs to be done.
Okay.
Any thoughts on the glossary?
Add it to an action item. Someone should open a PR, and then we can just add stuff as we go along.
Yay! There we go.
This is good. This is
Wham
good.
bam.
I mean, what else is here?
Wham bam. Okay. So great. I think with the last couple minutes here, what we could do is
let's go through the action items.
Exactly. Yeah,
yep. Good.
So we will take, I guess the process here would be, we'll go action item by action item, and then just add a name at the end of it for who would like to do that.
Okay.
Or unless anybody had another.
No, that's good. I put my name
like
on
we
a
already
couple
started in the beginning, so maybe just do it in the beginning instead of the end.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, that sounds good too.
Yeah.
Okay, I see somebody is hovering over that, so if you wouldn't mind writing these as we go. Crowd and badge for percentages of translations. Who would like to do that?
So this is opening an issue with the website committee saying, can we have this on the website, or is this just adding badges to the readmes?
So I think, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I looked briefly. I didn't see that there was a crowd in badge necessarily, but there might be. And that seemed like a common thing for a badge.
I don't think there is on the website now, since it only touches the API docs, not the whole website.
Okay.
We can make an issue. We can make an issue and then bubble that up with the website.
Yeah, the first thing to do would just be to put a link to the crowd-in page and explain how to look at the activity. You know, how to look at the.
That's true.
So
yeah. Does anybody want to take point on that? I can do it if nobody wants to do it. Okay.
Okay, great.
That was a massive sigh. Are you sure you actually want to do that?
Sorry.
It's okay. If you're gonna sigh, I can figure out how to do it. I'll probably mess up.
That was that was not intended to like induce guilt.
I know, but I'm just saying it made me feel guilty, so I'm just gonna do
here.
it, and that's fine.
Okay, you got it. You got
Next.
it.
Yeah.
Next, listen.
All right. Percentage of translation on our
I think,
website.
is that part of this?
Yeah, that's part of that. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Reach out to localization folks from earlier. Oh yeah. I think I should probably do that since I wrote the last one.
Yeah, you probably could just follow up on your issues.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Okay. So write contributing guide for repository. I wouldn't mind doing that unless somebody, but it's going to be a multi-collaborative thing. Where we're
so
going
just
to,
stub it. It just means stub. Just,
exactly.
Yeah. So just stub it.
Pass to the rest of us.
Stub it, and I definitely want to help out with that too.
Sweet. Cool. And then you took that on, Stephen. And
yeah, naming conventions. I already replied to the TSC issue, so hopefully we can get something sorted out here.
Perfect. And then need cross working group meeting with I can set up the working group meeting, no problem. That is super easy. Okay, so find new issues. So Stephen, you took that on, and then make a crowding glossary. That's another stub out, I think. Does anybody want to take first crack at that? Richard? Cool. Great. Hey.
This is good.
A few minutes to spare.
Very good.
Yeah.
Nick, did you want to take any of those, but you didn't speak up in time?
Well, I'm only kind of like half involved with the website. I set up a lot of build CI stuff for them. So
okay,
cool. Well, I think
just making sure.
Yeah. It sounds like definitely Nick. There's a lot. I mean, it's just in the nature of what we're doing here. We're triaging a lot of things, and there's a lot to do
for sure
in the website. So I'm sure we'll have a lot to do over there too. Yeah. Well, hey everybody, we did it. We're here, and we're taking some things. We're going to move forward, and
this is good.
Yeah, really excited for this team to move forward in the next few weeks, and let's keep in touch. And yeah, excited to make rad internationalization stuff happen with y'all.
This is great.
See you all next week.
Maybe a quick question I could ask on the label and team. I was thinking of just renaming the INTL label to i18n.
Sounds good. That sounds good.
And then the other thing was renaming the INTL team to be something like Node.js i18n API. Does that sound reasonable?
Yes.
Like a sub team of i18n?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, great. To me. And then we can move the people over that are involved in that. Okay, and then that can be the tag. So okay, great. I just wanted to get
you might be able to just move the team as well.
Nick had something to say. What were you saying?
Oh, I was just saying you might be able to just move the team itself to a sub team.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
There you go.
Final action point is someone needs to take these notes and put them in the meetings.
Yes.
I can do that if nobody else wants to.
Thanks, man.
Yep, no problem.
All right.
So move notes. Really quickly, selfishly, Stephen, I would love to meet up with you sometime and learn more about being like getting involved with ECMA 402.
Yes, in fact, I was gonna mention about that. I'm discussing a couple features, and I keep hearing, well, we want the web to work this way and the web to work this way, and it's like, well, okay, ECMAScript is not just the web, but anyway.
Okay.
Anyway, that'd be great. I would love to get. There's a lot of stuff happening there. We don't need to go through. We can't go through it here, but it would be great to get more input. I love to
see you next week, Richard. Good to see you.
Get stuff flowing back into ECMA. So anyway, I got to drop here too. So
yep, we all got to go.
Thanks. This is great.
Yeah. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Okay, bye.